Discover 3 spine-chilling true jogging horrors, sinister encounters that will haunt you forever. Lisa had always found solace in her evening jogs through Maplewood, but tonight felt different. The sun sank behind the houses, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch toward her, fingers of darkness grasping at her heels. The comforting hum of passing cars turned into a sinister whisper behind her, and with each thud of her sneakers on the asphalt, a creeping dread started to twist in her gut. Whenever she ran, the rhythm lulled her into a fleeting escape from her chaotic life as a single mother, but this evening was more than just a jog. It morphed into something out of a horror movie. Slow down. Just breathe, she reminded herself, yet finding comfort in her own thoughts was out of reach. The flickering streetlights now felt like the stuttering heartbeat of a dying beast, grotesquely illuminating fleeting glimpses of a hooded figure drifting just beyond their glow. She tried to shake it off, probably just her imagination, right? But the more she tried, the more the sensation of being watched gripped her, gnawing at her insides like a lingering fever. The laughter that broke through the trees sent shivers skittering down her back, wrapping around her throat with icy fingers. She picked up her pace, heart racing. This wasn't normal, not in her neighborhood, not in Maplewood, where kids played on bikes and laughter filled the air, not this dark, malicious sound that ricocheted off the walls of her tortured mind. She told herself to stay calm. Surely, the figure couldn't be anything more than a figment of her exhaustion, but deep down, a whisper clawed at her. What if it wasn't he? Just then, the local police station came into view. Relief surged through her veins, but as she burst through the door, the yawns and uninterested looks from officers felt like daggers to her heart. "We've got a situation here," Lisa exclaimed, and laughter met her, dismissive waves of annoyance. "Just a trick of the light," they scoffed. She felt her insides twist further, the feeling of isolation heavy in her chest. The figure wasn't just a shadow, the truth began to curl around her like smoke. Someone she should trust, someone everyone adored in this small town. Panic threaded through her thoughts as she fought to keep a firm grip on reality. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." With each stride growing frantic, her breath quickened in fear as the realization sunk in. The figure prowling her peaceful streets was a predator, preying on the very foundation of her safety. Shadows coiled around her like a tightening vice, and as the laughter reverberated in the night, it morphed into a monstrous entity, a harbinger of lost trust, a threat to her precious children. Faster and faster she ran, choking on the fear that threatened to swallow her whole. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about Maya and Jake, a relentless pursuit of survival driven by the terror lurking in the darkness. Home was just down the block, a sanctuary, or so she thought, but as she neared her driveway, a grotesque ripple of laughter sliced the air. She skidded to a stop, frozen. What if she was too late? What if the darkness had already reached into her life, and the true horror was yet to fully unravel? Lisa's heart pounded in her chest as she stood paralyzed in her driveway. The laughter echoed around her, drowning out the sound of her own breath, her mind racing. She scanned the darkness, trying to catch a glimpse of the hooded figure or any sign of movement, anything that would tell her she wasn't alone. But the street lay silent, distorted by anxiety. Had she imagined it all? Then, a flash of movement. She squinted as a branch rustled, an innocent tree swaying in the wind, but her gut twisted. No, this was different. The branches moved too rhythmically, too purposefully. Someone was out there. "Mom?" Maya's small voice pierced through the veil of night. Both relief and dread flooded Lisa. Her daughter was home. Yet, this was the moment she had feared. "Stay inside. Lock the doors," she shouted, urgency spilling from her lips. But now, Maya. There was no room for argument. She could feel panic rising in her throat, a primal scream clawing at her from the inside. She turned her focus back to the darkness, straining her ears to listen. There was that laugh again, a terrible sound, sickly sweet and far too close. Lisa bolted inside, her hands trembling as she fumbled with the bolt. The door clicked shut, but she felt far from safe. The mundane hum of her home was suddenly foreign, its familiarity tainted by fear. "Mom, what's wrong?" Maya peered through the living room, her sweet face scrunched with worry. "Just stay in here," Lisa snapped, clenching her fists. She couldn't let that figure find them, and fear fueled her resolve. She glanced around, taking inventory of the house. The kitchen knives were still in their block. A heavy iron skillet sat next to the stove. Anything would do. A thought pricked at her mind. Jake. Where was her son? She sprinted toward his room, dread curling her spine, but when she reached the door, it was ajar. The room was empty. Panic surged anew, she searched frantically, but he was nowhere to be found. "Jake!" She called out softly, hoping against hope. Silence. Terror clawed at her, tightening like a vice. She rushed back to the living room, Maya still standing there, fear radiating from her small form. He must be outside," Lisa gasped, words spilling like broken glass. "He could be in danger." "Mom." Maya's voice trembled as she tugged at Lisa's shirt, eyes wide. "What should we do? What could they do?" "We stay safe," Lisa uttered, summoning her courage. "We wait until it's safe." But as the seconds turned into minutes, each tick of the clock resonated like the relentless drums of war in her ears, and then a loud thud against the door. Fear rippled through her body, as if ice water had been poured down her back. Maintaining her composure, she steeled herself and turned to face her daughter. "Get behind the couch," she commanded, voice low but firm. She inched toward the door, the thud echoing again, a sickening knock of certainty. The figure from the shadows. The trust betrayed. It groaned, wood splintering slightly at the edges. "Let me in, Lisa," it called, voice smooth yet tainted with malice. "You know it's me, just let me in." That voice. She knew it. It used to be a comforting sound, a reality she trusted. But now? Now it only sent a wave of sickness crashing over her. Her heart was pounding. How could she fight someone she once believed in? What if this was only the beginning? "Mom?" Maya's whisper broke through her spiraling thoughts, but before she could respond, Lisa felt the malignant pressure of darkness closing in. The door began to splinter, and the laughter returned, a chilling melody, teasing her from the shadows. What could she do? Should she open it? What might she unleash? The darkness laughed again, mocking her hesitation. And somewhere in the house, a muffled giggle echoed back Jake's voice. With cold sweat plastered to her skin and desperation clawing at her, Lisa's thoughts spiraled. In a moment of terror, she grasped the skillet tightly. "It's time to confront this nightmare." The laughter burst out in full, reveling in her fear, and the door began to give way. What came next would change everything. The door shuddered as another violent thud rang out, the hinges creaking under the sudden pressure. Lisa tightened her grip on the skillet, knuckles white, heart pounding to the rhythm of her building dread. "Get down," she hissed, urgency filling her voice as she shoved Maya deeper behind the couch, mourning how quickly their safety bubble had shattered. The laughter outside seemed to twist and coil around her like a serpent. It was a dark, mocking laughter, hungry. Each chime resonated against her ribs, sparking a primal fear. The door splintered further, and she could see a thin line of darkness creeping in, widening like a maw eager to devour. "Mom," Maya whimpered, shaking silently, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "No matter what happens, don't move. Don't make a sound." Lisa struggled to maintain her calm, but the panic underlined her every word. With each tremor of the door, an unsettling thought crawled into her mind. What if this wasn't just something haunting her? What if it was Jake, playing some cruel prank? They had a history of silly games. The very idea made her stomach churn. What would happen if this was all a terrible misunderstanding? "Let me in, Lisa," the voice came again, now brittle and tinged with something venomous. "Don't you want to see your son?" Her heart skipped a beat, confusion and fear clawing at her throat. She glanced nervously toward the darkness creeping in, half expecting to see Jake's laughing face in the gloom, but then echoed back a quiet, chilling sound, another giggle. Was it Jake? Or was it an echo from somewhere far darker? Sudden clarity gripped her. No. This wasn't a game. That wasn't her son. Her instincts screamed that it was something else entirely. Something that had taken over. With a powerful shove, the door splintered open, emerging a figure cloaked in darkness. Lisa couldn't tell if it was the malevolence smeared across its features or the gathering chasm of shadows that made the outline so terrifying. But it was there, impossibly real, eyes glinting with wicked delight. "Lisa," it crooned, inching forward. "Open the door. Get away," she shouted, firming her stance, skillet raised high. A primal instinct roared inside her, urging her to defend what she held dear. The figure paused, feasting off her fear. Its laughter rang out, louder, more intense, a cacophony that screeched against her sanity. "You think you can stop me?" With every ounce of desperation, Lisa lunged forward, swinging the skillet. The metal connected with nothing but empty air. The figure dissipated momentarily, merging into the shadows, leaving behind only the laughter and an overwhelming sense of despair. "Mom!" Maya cried, confusion shattering her resolve. The chill of the moment sank deep into Lisa's bones. She had missed it. She hadn't confronted it fully. This wasn't just an evil masquerading as a loved one, it was something ancient, a primordial darkness clawing at the fabric of her reality. Then she heard the front door creaking again, this time from the inside of the house. Something was slithering through the house, just out of sight. "Jake!" she screamed, adrenaline coursing through her veins. A glint of metal caught her eye, a dark figure, murmuring sweetly. Moments stretched like rubber, and her mind circled the idea of searching for him, but she couldn't do that. She had to protect Maya. "Stay with me," she ordered, her heart racing as the unseen presence whispered soft, sweet lullabies that made her stomach churn. What twisted torment lay ahead? The laughter grew, merging with otherworldly whispers. Was it trying to coax her into something terrible? Lisa knew one thing for certain, the nightmare had only begun. Outside, shadows twisted violently, and she imagined countless eyes piercing her surroundings. "I will find you," the voice whispered again, insidious and slithering, taut against the silence of the night. What had been waiting in the dark, now pressed in closer, seeking to consume them all, and in that moment of despair, she understood they were not alone. The storm was deepening. What would they face next? The shadows quivered in the corners of the room, vibrating with malevolent energy. Lisa held her breath, eyes wide, listening intently. The murmurs froze her insides, wrapping around her like a vice. "Maya, listen carefully," she whispered, her voice emerging low and trembling. "Whatever you do, don't make a sound." Maya's little face was pale, her eyes wide with fear. Lisa's heart ached for her daughter, but there was no time for comfort. Behind the couch, they had become enveloped in a realm of unspeakable dread, a place where safety felt like a distant memory. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, pressing against the walls of their fragile sanctum. "Mommy," the voice slithered through the air, dripping with sweetness, yet layered with the sharpness of something wicked. "I want to play." It was feigning familiarity, a grotesque parody of her son. Lisa closed her eyes for a heartbeat, trying to steady her racing pulse. She had to think fast. What were its intentions? Outside, the storm raged on, thrumming against the windows, but it was the sound within that consumed her. The guttural laughter, rolling like thunder, echoed through the house. Let me in," the door swung wider, a silhouetted figure barely visible, moving in a sinuous dance that made her skin crawl. It swirled around objects in the room, taking on shapes that conjured memories, nightmares. It was tailored to confuse, like an ill-fitting mask desperately hiding a twisted visage. The darkness pulsed, feeding off her terror. Every breath she took shattered under its weight. She couldn't succumb. Not when Maya needed her. "Mommy," the mocking tone morphed, took on a different timbre, deeper and crueler. "Where are you, sweetheart?" Lisa squeezed her eyes shut, summoning her strength. A protective instinct flared, igniting her limbs. She could feel the encroaching presence, pressing against her, thick and suffocating. "Stay behind me." There was a sudden crash, the noise echoing against the walls as the entity breached into the room. It was upon them now, a shadowy horror carving its way through reality, weaving chaos with every step. A black, pulsating mass, twisting and contorting into sinewy limbs that stretched unnaturally. Lisa's throat felt constricted, each syllable a struggle as she instinctively moved forward, shielding her daughter. The skillet felt like a flimsy toy in her grip. "Maya!" She screamed again, and in that moment, something snapped inside her. The air crackled with desperation. "Get away from her!" The entity hesitated, taken aback by the raw power of a mother's fear. But that moment was short-lived. It lunged forward, a darkness with 1,000 faces, twisting and metamorphosing into the very nightmares they thought they had left behind. "Mommy!" Maya shrieked, the innocence piercing through the chaos, and in the frenzy, Lisa could almost see a flicker of Jake's face in the swirling mass that reminded her too strongly of the time they had played hide and seek in the dark. It fed off her memories, twisting them into horror. "Enough!" Lisa screamed, brandishing the skillet wildly. The sharp metallic thud echoed in the cavernous stillness, a desperate act of defiance. But before she could make contact, the figure flickered, vanishing and reappearing in the shadows with every swing, morphing into shapes that were all too real. Fear settled like a heavy fog in the room. Lisa's heart thudded as she realized the truth. It knew them. It was learning and adapting, feeding from their deepest fears. She racked her brain, trying to find a way to withstand its assault, the whirling darkness threatening to swallow them whole. "Maya, we have to," but she knew it was too late. The chaos spiraled, pulling them into an abyss as the figure towered over them, laughter curling menacingly in her ears. There was a palpable silence, and then the voices returned, more than one, blending into a cacophony of horror, swelling and crashing around her. Each name, each word, clawing at the remnants of her sanity. "Maya, hold on tight." A whisper scraped against her ears, subtly but undeniably familiar, weaving tales of darkness from long ago, and then the room lurched as the darkness lunged forward again. Just as Lisa braced herself for impact, a blinding flash surged through her. In that instant, she realized the darkness was not the end, it was the prelude to something far more sinister. Would they become its next victims? Or was there a way to break free? As her heart pounded with fear, the laughter erupted again, echoing through her soul, a chilling reminder that the nightmare was just beginning. The air distorted, warped under pressure, and for a brief instant, Lisa felt a surge of heat. Then silence enveloped them, thick and suffocating. She felt every heartbeat thundering, a stark reminder that the struggle wasn't over. The oppressive weight of the darkness was still there, crouching, waiting for them to make a mistake. "Maya," her voice trembled, threading through the heavy shadows. "Stay close." The room flickered, light seemed to ebb and flow like a dying heartbeat. Shadows danced on the walls, teasing her, pulling at the edges of her sanity. She strained her ears, trying to catch a hint of where the entity had gone. Behind her, the soft whimper of her daughter sent a knife of fear piercing through her. "Mommy?" Maya's voice held a quiver, barely above a whisper. Lisa choked back a sob, eyes scanning the room with desperate urgency. "It's okay, honey." In that tightening silence, Lisa strained to listen. The storm outside had dulled to a low hum, a faint reminder of reality, mingling eerily with the suffocating stillness inside the house. But then a new sound crept in, soft scratching, like fingernails dragging across wood. Her heart raced. Maya, under the couch. She shoved her daughter towards the meager safety of the furniture. Now. The shadows flickered, shadows that seemed to breathe, wrapping around Lisa like cold fingers as she instinctively backed away, her grip tightening around the skillet. The scratching grew louder, melting into laughter that pulled at the phrase of her sanity. Why hide, little one? Come out. Mommy can't protect you forever, no. It was the laughter of her son, twisted into something foul and malicious, a mockery of joy. Lisa's pulse quickened as memories played out not through her eyes, but through the entity's eyes. It was feeding off her despair, her guilt. Each memory was worn and tattered, producing a flood of emotions that rose, threatening to engulf her. Suddenly, the laughter stopped. The room felt alive, as if it were observing her, plotting. With renewed rage, she lifted the skillet, ready to swing at the encroaching darkness. But before she could react, the entity lunged from the shadows, erupting into a blinding flash. The world spun while colors collided violently. Lisa staggered back, disoriented, her breath stolen away. And then the light cleared. She found herself in a different room entirely, the walls tilting at unnatural angles, the furniture warped and grotesque. It was somehow familiar, yet terrifyingly wrong. Where are we? Panic surged through her, wrapping around her like chains. A fleeting guttural sound emerged nearby, deep and distorted, resonating through the floorboards. Shall we play a game? It hissed, the voice echoing from every corner of the warped room. Maya. Her heart dropped. She spun, desperately searching for her daughter. Maya. The laughter returned, spilling from the shadows, echoing haphazardly. Too many voices, too many faces. Every time she turned, she caught glimpses of her son's face morphing into distorted grins, horrendous nightmares climbing out of her memories. She clenched her fists, eyes wide with defiance. You won't take her. As if mocking her, a dark cloud loomed closer, twisting and curling, pulling at her sanity. Chilling whispers filled the air again, words slithering close enough for her to hear. But you've already lost, Lisa. She's mine now. With an empowerment born of maternal instinct, Lisa charged forward, swinging the skillet in an arc, this time aiming for the swirling mass that threatened to consume her. The metallic clang broke like glass, splintering the distorted air around her, but the darkness absorbed the blow, almost seeming to laugh at her feeble attempts. Deep within the mass, a pair of glowing eyes pierced through the gloom, shining, ravenous. Do you honestly think you can win? It mocked, the voices mixing into a cacophony. Let the games begin. At that moment, Lisa understood, this was a new level of horror. The darkness was not just a foe but an entity teeming with a life of its own. Desperation ignited in her. As she grasped the magnitude of her situation. Maya. She shouted, fear and resolve intertwining. But the shadows pulsated, taking on a life of their own. The walls trembled. And just as she thought she could reach her daughter, something shifted in the corner of her vision, a glimmer, a fleeting hope twisted with terror. A door appeared, tall, ancient, inviting, but it thrummed with an energy that crawled over her skin. Would it lead them to safety, or into deeper darkness? Lisa hesitated, heart pounding. Mommy, please. Maya's voice drifted through the storm of chaos, clear yet trembling. Go. She urged, but the pulsating shadows loomed closer, drawing her in. The decision hit her like a freight train, either chase the flicker of hope or be swallowed whole. As she bolted toward the door, Lisa felt the shadows clawing, grasping for her very essence. Would she reach her daughter before it was too late? Now, the real game was about to start. Lisa sprinted toward the door, her lungs burning, a primal scream clawing at her throat. The shadows howled behind her, coiling around her legs, clutching at her like desperate hands. Each step was a struggle, the floor almost alive, shifting beneath her. Maya. The name tore from her lips, raw and frantic. The darkness loomed over her, pulsating with a life of its own, slithering like snakes eager to ensnare. "Mommy." Maya's voice was a haunting echo, fading as if the shadows were swallowing it whole. Lisa's heart pounded in her chest, each beat a desperate reminder of what she had to protect. With one last burst of resolve, she lunged for the door. Her fingertips brushed against its cold, wooden surface, the moment stretching like a taut wire. But as she reached for the handle, it jolted open, swinging with an unnatural force. A gust of rancid air rushed out, filled with whispers, promises of fear that sent shivers racing down her spine. Shadows eddied around the entrance, as if the door itself was a portal to despair. "Join us," hissed the voice. It was no longer just laughter, it slithered through the air, a seductive invitation wrapped in malice. "Not without my daughter," she yelled, swinging the skillet wildly at the flickering shadows. The darkness recoiled, parts of it writhing like a wounded beast, but came right back, more relentless. Lisa dared a glance behind her. Maya was still beneath the couch, eyes wide, hands covering her ears. Her daughter looked impossibly small in that thick blackness, surrounded by shadows that seemed to breathe ominous threats. Lisa's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. She couldn't leave without her. "Stay there!" Lisa screamed, exploding forward again, forcing herself through the threshold. The moment she crossed, a jarring chill enveloped her, warping her vision. The world shifted. She found herself sprawled on the floor of an open field, under a stormy sky swirling with gray clouds. The ground was nothing but dirt and decay, an endless stretch of barren land. Panic gripped her, she spun around, searching for Maya, but the echoes of laughter swallowed her calls. "Maya!" Desperation yanked at her with every step, heart racing faster. Where had that door taken her? Then she heard it, the sweetness of her daughter's laughter, innocent yet tinged with a sense of wrongness. It floated toward her, enticing and chilling all at once. "Mommy, come play." The voice sang, but it was layered beneath something darker. Shadows began to converge slowly, their familiar shapes coalescing into forms. Lisa recognized the faces of lost children, contorted in a grotesque mockery of joy and despair. "No, no." Lisa's voice cracked. She staggered back, her breath hitching. They were children, or they had been once. They blinked at her with eyes filled with sorrow, their whispers mingling with the wind. "Join us forever." They reached out, ghostly hands beckoning her closer, their disembodied laughter echoing around her. It was the voice of every child she had ever known, and they were all twisted together, wanting, needing something more. "Get away from me!" she cried out, clutching the skillet tightly. She spun to confront the gathering shadows, swinging the metal wildly. But every time they came close, they seemed to vanish, only to reappear from another angle, laughing at her attempts. Lisa's mind raced, frantically trying to piece together the fractured fragments of reality. This was their game, and she was losing. The shadows whirled and laughed, a cacophony of madness, making her doubt her instincts. "Mommy," Maya's voice. And there she was, standing just beyond the encroaching mass of darkness. "Maya." Relief flooded her veins but was quickly chilled with terror as Lisa witnessed the shadows closing in on her daughter, hungry and relentless. "Come to us, sweet child," they cooed, their voices syrupy and enticing. "Leave her, come join the game." "No." Lisa's scream ripped through the air as she charged toward her. In an instant, the darkness rippled, surged, and clawed at her, vicious and unyielding. "Maya." Time slowed as she reached out, this swirl of chaos threatening to overpower her. Just as she thought she could grab her daughter, the shadows lunged again, wrapping around Lisa's arms and legs, pulling her into a vortex of despair. She felt the very essence of her being drawn away, fractures of her soul tearing apart like paper in the wind. "Fight it, Maya!" she shouted, desperately trying to pull herself free, but as darkness enveloped her, her vision dimmed, the whispers grew louder, drowning out her pleas. "Join us forever." Lisa grasped the last threads of her sanity, eyes searching for hope, but the shadows fully consumed her, and then, just as all seemed lost, a light flickered in the distance, a slowing pulse cutting through the void. What was it? Hope? Or merely another trap? The moment hung suspended as terror gripped her, promising that the final game was far from over. The light flickered again, this time stronger, more assertive, cutting through the thick veil of darkness that sought to engulf Lisa. It hummed with an energy that felt both like salvation and temptation. A desperate hope ignited within her as she struggled against the suffocating shadows that whispered her thoughts away. Maya! She cried, but the name felt small in this vast, dark space. The shadows latched onto her tighter, pulling her skirts of despair, threatening to swallow her whole. Yet, the pulsing light called to her, offering a thread of clarity in the chaos. Let her go. The words came from deep within her, desperation transforming to anger. She fought through the gripping darkness, her movements sluggish, her body weighted down as if submerged in murky water. With each step towards the light, each inch carved out of the shroud, she felt the dark hands slip, uncertain and wavering. The laughter faded for a moment, curiosity fleeting across the twisted faces around her. They paused, their hollow eyes riveted on the warmth that poured in with the glow. Then she saw Maya, her little figure still under the couch, her face streaked with tears, eyes wide and shimmering with fear. The specters turned toward her daughter, suddenly frenetic, their shrieks rising in pitch. Their hunger surged like a raging tide, eager to reclaim what was almost theirs. Maya! Don't move! She shouted, her heart racing. The shadows hissed, shifting as they sought a new target, drawn to the pulsing light of Lisa's ferocity, flaring into existence thanks to the bond with her daughter. She's ours. They screeched, their voices a discordant chorus of desperation and rage. Not while I'm breathing. Lisa's voice boomed, emboldened by a newfound strength. The pull towards the light became a beacon of defiance, each step forward unraveling the encroaching darkness, scattering it like ashes in the wind. The shadows writhed, angry and feral, patching together their forms in a line, inches from Lisa's face. Grinning with needle-like teeth, they danced around her, a hungry pack teasing their prey. Come, join us, sweet mother. Leave her. Their words dripped with deceitful sweetness, slicing through Lisa's resolve, attempting to break her spirit. No! She roared, pushing through the last remnants of darkness. The light flared around her, igniting the shadows in a flash of furious brilliance. They recoiled, hissing, twisting away from the radiance as if stung. Lisa lunged forward toward Maya, stretching out her hand, her heart hammering louder than the pulse of light around her. I'm coming, baby. Just hold on. A tremor rippled beneath her feet, the ground shaking as if the very fabric of this realm was unraveling, responding to her rallying cry. The lost children began to dissolve into mist, their spectral forms fading into the ether, screaming as they were sucked back into the void from which they came. Holding Maya's gaze, Lisa felt the terrible emptiness around him begin to shift. The shadows flickered, melting away in the face of maternal love, yet she could feel a pressing weight at her back. The darkness was relentless. In that moment, the ground erupted beneath her and a chasm yawned wide, ready to swallow her whole. Maya! Her scream pierced the pandemonium, a fierce urgency entwined in it. She dove with both hands outstretched, pushed forward by that desperate resolve, but through all the noise and chaos of the collapsing world, one voice rang clearer than the rest. Whispering, soft and sinister, it curled around her heart. Join us, Lisa. Just as she thought she would seize her daughter, the darkness lunged with a vicious roar, echoing through the space that was oh so close to being salvation. Cold fingers of shadow clawed at her once more, pulling Lisa down, deeper into the abyss. Each second felt like an eternity, and as she grasped at the flickering light, she felt her fingers slip. And then, there it was. The edge of the abyss where light and dark met, and in that disorienting split second, she knew this was the moment of truth. Would she let it all slip, or fight till the end? As shadows morphed into monstrous shapes around her, Lisa's resolve hardened. She would not perish here. Not alone. Not without her daughter. But the void laughed, a merciless sound that echoed through her bones, promising this was merely the beginning of the end. And with a final desperate cry, as tendrils of darkness closed in again, the question hung in the air: was the battle for Maya's soul about to begin, or had they already claimed everything she held dear? Lisa felt herself teetering on the brink, the light flickering before her like a dying star. Shadows clawed at her consciousness, their whispers cold and agonizing, seeking to drag her into endless despair. She blinked, trying to focus on Maya, her sweet girl hiding under the couch where safety shouldn't be a distant memory. Maya. The name echoed in the stillness, a fragile note in the cacophony that threatened to engulf them. With every thudding heartbeat, the darkness charged closer, hungry for fear, eager to extinguish the flickering hope. Panic surged, and she pushed back against the tide, but it was a futile effort. The shadows lunged again, cascading around her like a wave. "Come to us," they chanted, voices swirling around her like a fog, casting doubt. "Leave her behind, she is ours." No. The rejection burned in her throat, fierce and raw. She couldn't abandon her daughter. Not for an instant would she betray her love. Each breath felt like a fire blaring through her lungs, sustaining her while the darkness gnawed and snickered. In the midst of the swirling chaos, a strange sensation pulled at her, threading through the pit of her stomach. It was an insidious sense of familiarity, of entrapment, and with a sickening twist, memories floated to the surface. Distant faces of the lost children swept into the void, their fragile laughter haunted her dreams. "Remember," they whispered, taunting. "Join us, Lisa. We've waited for you." The shadows surged, grabbing hold of her ankles with skeletal fingers, dragging her back as if they sensed her hesitation. The swirling light clashed against the dark, clawing at her, flickering wildly as if it too sensed her wavering resolve. Just then, Maya shrieked, the sound so sharp it cut through the shadows. "Mommy! Please!" Her voice pulled Lisa back, reinvigorating that fierce, protective spirit roaring within her. "Stay there. I'm coming." Lisa lunged forward, every muscle tensed, every synapse firing as she plunged towards Maya, but the chasm shuddered again, a tremor deep enough to steal her breath. The ground beneath didn't just quake, it shattered, forcing Lisa to twist and turn, her footing swept from under her. She felt the cold seeping into her very bones, the shadows encircling everything, luring her into acceptance. "Let go. Embrace your fate." They hissed, their voices a medley of the lost, the lonely, their relentless pleas crept into her thoughts like vines, but Lisa shook her head furiously, almost violently. She wouldn't yield. Wouldn't surrender even when the very essence of her being threatened to collapse. Not today. With a roar born of the primal instincts of a mother, she stretched her hand forward and gripped the light, pulling it tighter around her, a shield against the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, a burst of radiance ignited, flaring against the cold claws, searing the shadows that had drawn so close. In that blinding moment, she saw clarity, the dark figures contorted in agony, their faces twisted into grotesque masks of despair. What now? The dread seeped back, for they were still crawling, relentless, as the barren world shook beneath them, closing in like a hungry maw. "Mommy!" Maya cried again, her voice sweet yet tinged with fright, but then silence. The shadows seemed to halt, whispering amongst themselves, and then their laughter echoed darkly triumphant. A split second later, they surged forth with renewed vigor as Lisa's heart dropped to her stomach. "Foolish mother! You think you can defeat us?" The words slithered through the air, chilling and vivid as the shadows wrapped around her tighter. "Follow us into the void where no pain exists." At that moment, everything spiraled out of control. The light flickered, threatened to fade. The walls of the abyss drew even closer, seemingly pressing them between two insatiable forces. Would she falter and lose everything? Or would the mother's love shatter the suffocating darkness? The throbbing light pulsed fiercely, but so did the shadows, as if they were both locked in a battle for the soul of mother and daughter. And somewhere within the chaos lay the question that gripped her heart: in this eternal struggle between light and dark, who would claim victory and at what cost? The shadows writhed hungrily, tightening their grip around Lisa, coiling like serpents ready to strike. She felt their cold breath brushing against her skin, each exhale laden with despair. The trembling uncertainty danced in her chest, but a flicker of courage burned within her. "Maya!" She screamed, the fear in her voice slicing through the thickening darkness like a knife. She was losing time, losing grip. The shadows howled back, a dark choir chanting in an unholy symphony. "Let her go, Lisa. She's one of us now. No." Anger flooded through her, igniting a moment of clarity. "Stay away from my daughter." With that, she yanked at the light, feeling its heat surge through her body. It pulsed as if alive, shaking off the clutches of the darkness. For a moment, the shadows recoiled, but it was only a moment. The earth trembled with escalating fury, a violent rumble echoing around them. Cracks spread out from where she stood like lightning across the land, each split a reminder of what they were fighting against. And then she glimpsed at the swirling void, a maw of darkness hungry for her very essence. "Maya!" Again, she called, but the little girl, her daughter, remained out of sight. Panic gripped Lisa, squeezing her heart. If she lost Maya to this abyss, she wouldn't just be a mother without a child, she would become a ghost in this forsaken world, lost and haunted forever. Suddenly, a guttural sound tore through the atmosphere, a low, rumbling growl that resonated from deep within the cracks, a warning, a threat. "Join us!" They hissed, gliding closer, their forms sliding seamlessly through the abyss, their eyes burning with malice. "Together, we can guide her, take her from you know." Lisa's voice thundered, shaking with an energy she didn't know she possessed. "I will not let you take her." The light flared again, shooting upward like a meteor, illuminating the jagged edges of despair. Lisa knew this was the moment. She had to reach Maya. "Mommy!" Maya's voice echoed again, trembling through the air laced with shadows, an anthem of desperation that propelled Lisa forward. But the ground shuddered violently. The chasm widened, as if it were a living entity, ravenous and demanding. Lisa stumbled, teetering on the edge as the pulsing light flickered, waning beneath the strain of the struggle. Then out of nowhere, a shadowy figure lunged forward, a faceless wisp carving through the air with vicious speed. Lisa gasped, the presence fueling her fear. It lunged at her, the chilling grasp aimed straight for her throat. "Enough!" she roared, feeling the primal surge of a mother's rage. She charged ahead, fierce and undeterred, the flames raging in her heart pushing her towards the uncertainty. "Let her go!" she cried, reaching deep into the light that still held promise despite its flickering frailty. As the shadows lunged, she thrust her hand into the radiant glow, calling upon every ounce of love and hope she possessed. The air crackled around her. For a fleeting moment, Lisa felt them weaken, felt her power surging through her fingertips. The shadows' laughter faltered, shadows shifting back. Yet, as the light flared brighter, it cast long, eerie shapes that danced against the backdrop of their impending doom. A whisper slithered through the air, chilling her spine. "You think you can save her? What if your love is the very thing that brings her to us?" The chilling thought wormed its way into her brain as the shadows swirled, testing her resolve. The sheer panic welled up, bitter and unrelenting. Had she made a mistake? "Maya, hold on." But that haunting question lingered, did love wield the power to save? Or would it ultimately be the tether binding them to the darkness? As shadows loomed, the void called out with an enticing promise of eternal peace. The boundaries of the world warped around her, darkness twisting like a serpent ready to swallow them both whole. What price would she pay to ensure her daughter's safety? The walls of despair pressed down, and with one final, defiant cry, Lisa reached her hands out into the swirling void. But what would emerge from the abyss? Would it be salvation or destruction? The chaos coiled around Lisa as she grasped blindly for the flickering light that seemed to pulse against the oncoming darkness. Shadows writhed and clawed at her ankles, a palpable reminder of what was at stake. Maya. The desperation surged again, sharp and electric. She felt her heart pounding, each beat an urgent plea. In that swirling abyss of forgotten nightmares, she sensed the encroachment of something slithering closer. It was intoxicating, the way the darkness whispered sweet promises, tempting her to give in. Leave her, it coaxed, bending reality to its malevolent whim. Come join us, Lisa. I want tea. She roared, her voice thick with defiance. The ground shook beneath her again, fissures sparking outwards, threatening to swallow them into the vortex of horrors. I'll never abandon my child. Out of the corner of her eyes, flickers of movement caught her attention, shadows morphing, twisting into contorted faces of the children she had seen before, their laughter filling the air with haunting echoes that chilled her core. Join us, sweet mother, they hissed, feverishly beckoning. The tide of darkness grew stronger, drawing her nearer like a siren to an innocent sailor. But then a shift. The flickering light before her glowed brighter, an inferno blazing against the encirclement. It was an ember igniting her very soul. Maya. She cried again, the power of her voice slicing through the haze, pushing back the shadows that felt suddenly unsure, trembling beneath her fierce maternal love. Don't you dare touch her! She screamed, brewing a storm of resolve deep within. With renewed strength, she summoned the light, feeling its warmth envelope her, seeping into her very bones. As if recognizing the transformation within her, the shadows recoiled slightly, momentarily stunned by her unwavering defiance. You think you can resist? The voices hissed, a cacophony infused with fury. But fear turned to fire. Lisa was absolutely certain of one thing: her love for Maya was the key, the weapon against the darkness. The shadows surged again, relentless, but Lisa was no longer a passive observer. She charged forward, hand outstretched toward the pulsing light, feeling its heat radiate through her veins. Her vision blurred around the edges, the malevolent swirls attempting to snare her. Mommy, please. Maya's voice echoed as if calling from somewhere beyond the grasp of the dark. Lisa felt the tether of desperation binding her, and the weight of endless sorrow that threatened to drown them both pressed down like a brick wall. I'll save you. She cried out, determination surging. And in that moment, she perceived the flickering light wasn't the end, it was a bridge, a portal to their salvation. We can break this curse. The shadows clamored closer, their forms shifting into grotesque connotations of her worst fears, whispering that she would fail. But Lisa's heart raced with unrelenting hope. With one final push, she dove toward the light, embracing it like a long-lost friend. The moment she crossed the threshold, everything shattered into brilliant hues of white and gold, an explosion that flooded through her like a burst of freedom. The shadows screeched, their woven forms unraveling, dissipating under the blazing warmth that no darkness could extinguish. A scream tore through the night, but this time it wasn't Lisa's. It was a heartbreaking cry of a mother's love, echoing, encompassing. Lisa. It was Maya, and the sound snapped her focus protectively. She turned, and there her daughter stood at the precipice of shadows, her little frame trembling under the veil of darkness. Lisa surged forward, propelled by sheer will. Hold on, Maya. I'm coming. In that spark of recognition, she extended her hand towards Maya, the pulsing light bridging the gap. You can do it. Just reach for me. Suddenly, the ground trembled again. The abyss twisted, angry at the defiance, pulling violently at the edges of their reality. But Lisa stood firm, the radiant light bursting around her. No! She bellowed, the sound rebounding, resonating with authority. You will not take her. In one fierce tug of will, the light exploded in an ethereal wave, blasting through the darkness. It was a frenzy of shining power colliding, and every lost child's laughter harmonized in a sorrowful melody. This was not just a victory. It was a liberation. The shadows shrieked, twisting violently as they fled, consumed by the brilliance that surged forth from Lisa's heart. Maya soared into Lisa's waiting arms, their fingers clasping tightly, no longer distant figures trapped in a torturous game. As they embraced, the warmth wrapped around them, an impenetrable shield against the horrific night. The shadows screamed, chaotic tendrils fraying, collapsing under the weight of light. They spiraled away, retreating into the void. The dark ceased to exist. They were free, holding her daughter tightly. Tears streamed down Lisa's cheeks, not out of despair but fierce gratitude. They had faced the darkness together, and their love had prevailed. They had written a new ending right there in the heart of darkness. As dawn broke, spilling light across the horizon, they stood together on the threshold, two survivors, eternally bonded. "Let us go home," Lisa whispered, her heart full. Maya nodded, her small face shining with hope. The nightmare had ended, but their strength had only just begun. Now, don't miss out. If you're as fascinated by this story as I was, you need to subscribe now to ensure you're the first to catch the next exclusive tales. And while you're at it, smash that like button now. Let us show the love and feed the algorithm seriously, it makes a difference. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Your thoughts matter and I'm curious to know what you all think. Lastly, don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this surreal conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Let's spread the word.